Well, can Europe really compete in a trade war with the United States? Business leaders are freaking out and begging the European Commission and European Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen to get in gear, please. You can't just talk like we're going to compete, but then still have this same oppressive regulatory system that keeps business from competing. So it's a big game unless something changes. Now, President Trump says he's going to put tariffs now on big pharma, and that will make them move manufacturing back to the United States. That would also severely hurt Europe. So Chris Rossini joins us from the Ron Paul Institute and helps us to figure out this question. Is Europe talking a big game, or could they actually compete? What do you think?
I'm not an expert on Europe as far as our government. I think our problem is, is our own government. We're pointing the finger outwards that we've been ripped off by the world. And it's our own government that has these deficits. It's a $7 trillion budget, $37 trillion in debt, increasing debt. So at the Ron Paul Institute, we place our focus on our own state rather than blaming the entire world. Now, when you're describing the EU, we have the same problems with our regulatory system, with overwhelming government in every single aspect of our lives. That has to be addressed instead of pointing the finger outwards.
Well, that's a good question, because it really is a question here of regulation. And so do you think Donald Trump, he's looking outwards at the trade we do with other countries, but he spoke many times on the campaign trail about regulation. I mean, I think besides Africa, there is no worse place for regulation than Europe. And so are we actually fixing this, or is our fixation on just sort of selling better to other countries?
Well, the expectation, at least from our end of Doge, was to do what Elon Musk said. I mean, he sounded incredible when he was campaigning for Trump. But that has fizzled a little bit. They've gone after some big stuff, USAID, Department of Education, but these are mostly Democrat leftist things that they've attacked. But the Republicans are all happy with Doge. They're not complaining. And we're hearing that we're going to have our first $1 trillion military budget. So, we're going in the wrong direction. If anything, the military budget should be slashed drastically. So we're not seeing, the type of deregulation, the type of cuts that we were hoping for. I don't know if Trump is that guy, or if he ever was. But Elon has to work within the apparatus that he's in. I'm sure he would do a lot more if he had a freer hand.
I find it interesting, too, that Ursula von der Leyen, European Commissioner, who's an unelected representative, basically, of all of these European countries. I mean, Portugal's not coming to the table here, sitting and talking. She's really driving this narrative that Europe is ready to negotiate with President Trump and get on friendly terms here and really lower and start accepting American-made manufacturing and goods to flow into Europe. I find that piece odd. Maybe that's just me editorializing, Chris. But Europe doesn't really bring in a lot of American manufacturing, doesn't bring in a lot of American products. I lived there for 5 years. I can tell you that going to the grocery store, good luck finding American products. You're just not going to. Very few of them are on store shelves in grocery stores. So do you think we're going to see a sea change? And can America actually provide that amount of supply to the world if everyone starts buying our stuff?
I don't know. And I don't know that, we're going to have this rush of business here. Our country is in deep trouble financially with our government. We could, in 2 years, have a President Harris who will do who knows what. I mean, are you going to put your billions of dollars into the United States with such a political system? And, the American people are not doing so well. You have the people on the right saying we have a major mental health problem with people not wanting to work. And, they've been blasted with all types of stuff that you don't even know the difference between a man and a woman. I mean, is somebody with billions of dollars want these types of people working for them? I mean, we have a lot of problems here that I'm not so sure that even if you got 0 to 0 tariffs, that people will come here anyway. It's still probably a better deal to stay overseas.
I guess this is a chicken or egg type thing. Do we have unmotivated people because the government took their jobs, but could we put meaningful work in front of them and get unmotivated people? Which do we get? How do we get that, right? And
can we teach motivation?
Yeah, and so that the Trump administration, I don't know if you saw Trump on Joe Rogan, but he told this story about you want to build a building, the EPA comes in and tells you you can't do it, and you need to get a consultant that's a green consultant that does nothing but drive up the cost. Then you just don't build the building because you get so frustrated you walk away with a middle finger in the air. And what he actually did this week, in addition to the tariffs, was lift EPA regulations from the Biden administration. So because these types of green initiatives that do nothing are going to disappear and have done so this week, do you put any stock in that as a positive momentum?
I'm sure that's very good, of course. But, when you think of the types of jobs that are done overseas, they talk about iPhones. And I mean, Americans are not going to sit in factories and screw little screws into phones. We just won't do it. When I travel, if I go across the country or whatever, and I see signs, $20 an hour, and they have all these vacancies, Americans aren't even taking those jobs that are there. So to expect that they're going to do these laborious jobs that have been gone for so many decades here, and we just don't have that work ethic. So the Trump administration is saying, well, we're looking into technologies, which means automation. So bring your factories here and it's going to be automated. Well, I mean, so that kind of distorts the whole purpose of bringing these people here. If they're not going to be jobs anyway, it's all going to be automated. So, I mean, what has been done by our government to our country is a very big mess. And just solving it by raising tariffs is not going to cut it.
Well, you're talking, yeah, I know, and it's so difficult. So you're talking about 40 years of destruction of the United States. I mean, or maybe even longer, but really, I think 40 years. You could go back to the Clinton years when this really, I think, started in earnest with NAFTA, gutting our American manufacturing and driving it overseas. And you're right, we have millions of manufacturing job vacancies right now in the United States that we can't fill.
Right.
So I know.
I agree. But this is being sold as we're going into a golden age because we're putting some tariffs on. And now the tariffs are being paused. We couldn't even handle, a few weeks of it. And it's very haphazard. You don't know what Trump's going to do from 1 minute to the next. How are these countries supposed to negotiate with him, knowing that in his next sentence, he could take the tariffs off? I mean, it's very haphazard. Again, at the Ron Paul Institute, we focus on our own government, not going and trying to blame the whole world and creating enemies. I mean, they could have Americans hating the Chinese, with propaganda before we know it. So this could go very bad, but we have to focus on our own situation and try to fix it.
You're really bumming me out because I like to think that this idea of American motivation is still there. I love the movie Dave. I talk about it all the time when his main job is to find people work and that helps the American economy. And do you think we've destroyed this irreparably? No. It just will take time. It's just not going to be a Band-Aid. And again, is time what we have? Trump is here for a couple years and he may be gone. And then what happens? We could go back into DEI world. So it is... the future is uncertain. But it's going to take time. It took time to get this bad. So, of course, it's going to take time to try to repair, but everything can be repaired. We just can't think that Trump is going to rip some Band-Aid off and there's going to be miracles everywhere. I wouldn't believe that.
Yeah, right. I know. I think people in this age of like order something on Amazon and it shows up at your door that evening, we need to, I think, or we want a customer service complaint, we're able to jump on with someone on the phone or a chat bot immediately and get an answer. It took 40 years of total destruction of this country. It's going to take a lot longer than just a few quick tariff moves. I totally agree with you.
Something I've been thinking about. I've been listening to this book called The Antidote, Happiness for People Who Can't Stand Positive Thinking. And there is some data that this adherence to the secret and positive thinking tanked our economy around the 2008. And then the Biden administration and Obama administration is, don't work, don't be productive, you're good as you are. That's oppressive, that's the patriarchy, right? And before that, we had the Reagan years where it was dog eat dog, Glengarry Glen Ross, do your best or else you're screwed kind of thing. And I'm thinking, maybe I'm a little nostalgic for the ethos of the 80s is do your best or get eaten. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, my grandparents and my parents, their work ethic was a lot different than, when you see today's generations. But, but that was given away, and it was given away by our government. Let's not blame everybody else. This was policy, this NAFTA and everything else China didn't come here and steal everything from us. It was transferred over to them for profits, and those profits were made, but now we're left in the lurch, and we can fix it. But again, like I said, we have to take a long-term view. China is a 5,000-year-old civilization. They're not like us, where you need instant gratification. They will think 100 years out. That's not how it works here. But we can take steps to improve ourselves. We say, slash the state, free up that American ingenuity that exists. But as long as we have a $37 trillion in debt and it's going to go to 55, forget it. Our government is still way too big.
Yeah. Chris Rossini, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Great to see you from the Ron Paul Institute. As always, America first. Thanks, Chris.